Okay, in this video I'd like you to understand how to play hymns on the organ and not to get lost between the verses. Basically, sometimes hymn playing can be complex, and I have this hymnal, Lithuanian language hymnal, that we use usually in hymn playing. And there are lots of hymns and with many verses sometimes. So today I selected especially interesting Gregorian chant hymn, Veni Creator Spiritus. And this, of course, is a very famous plain chant hymn and melody. And it's interesting for us today because it has 7 verses. And it's not often happens that organist can play all of them and understand the text while playing, and also not to get lost. So in this video I will explain how I do it, and I recommend sometimes you can apply these tips also in your hymn playing, in other hymn tunes as well. So what I do is I prepare registration in advance. I sort of have this mental plan, outline of my verses. For example, on my organ we have 3 manuals. So verse 1 will be on manual 1, verse 2 will be on manual, for example, 3, and then verse 3 will be on manual 2, and so on. I can jump back and forth. So that's one way to remember. The second way is to remember the stop combinations, right? And these combinations will help you not to get lost. For example, remember we have sort of 4 or 5 families of organ stops: principal stops, flute stops, string stops, reed stops, and mutations, even 5, right? So you can play interchangeably these verses on even 5 different registrations without any complications, because you're using different stops. And for example, verse 6 would be on principals, but more than one principle, and then verse 3 would be on louder. Verse 7 will be on louder reeds, and we'll use the harmonization which is not in the book, but sort of original modal harmonization. And before we start, here is the plain chant, the Veni Creator Spiritus melody. So I place this hymnal right here on the music rack, and I will play the first verse on the principles of 8 footbeats. a nice mutation sound of the third manual. Flutes 8, 4, and fifth 1 and 1/3. Okay, using flute accompaniment on the first manual. Principle on the first manual, for example, this way. Of the first manual. Let's do this. The last verse. So that's how I do it. I prepare these organ registrations in advance in my head, and even on this mechanical organ I can jump from one manual to another and think about these 5 different families of organ stops, and not necessarily in the same order, right? Because sometimes the verses and the text would dictate different colors and different symbolic meaning, so I could choose, right? Depending on the text, right? But you don't need to follow the hymn text while playing. You sort of prepare in advance these combinations. If you have pistons set up, it's even easier. 7 different registrations, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're done, basically. But use these 5 different families of organ stops: principals, flutes, strings, soft reeds, mutations, principal chorus, and chorus reeds, basically, with trumpets. All right, and you will have wonderful, colorful hymn playing, and your congregation will enjoy it tremendously. Not always your hymn playing has to be very loud, you know. Sometimes you can play interlude, sometimes you can play together with the congregation, depending on what is the tradition in your country and in your basically community. So, but remember this principle to set in advance those registrations, and think about the jumping from one manual to another during the hymn playing. Of course, we didn't touch the even more colorful aspects when you can place the tune not in the soprano range, but in the tenor or in the bass with the pedals, or in the any other voice also. That's more complex. It's even more fun to do this. But even with the general basic soprano harmonization, you can supply different harmonies of your own, modal harmonies sometimes, your hymn playing will be quite fascinating to your congregation, and you will not get lost by playing many verses from the hymn book. Thanks.